这个赛季 EDG 经历了起起伏伏，但正是因为这样的过程，让我们更有斗志，更具韧性。
虽然已经不在临时路小区挺久，但是在遇老邻居，我们还是努力成为小区争霸赛的冠军。
这次是常规赛最后一场比赛了，我们希望以最好的状态进入季后赛。
如果没有翻过高峰，就看不到新的风景。不管对手是谁 ，Snake 要做的就是不留遗憾，一往无前。
和 Snake 的下路对线，我想他们应该会感到焦虑。
作为新人，每一场比赛我都想努力地证明自己。这个赛季的最后一场比赛，我会全力以赴，为自己交出一份满意的答卷。
这边的话是死之前换掉了对方一个山药，但是这3员大将全部都是死于赖特的现象。
上次Snake放蛇咬我们，让我们输掉了比赛，但是这次我们会用7来进行反击。
I've been down before. Fate has a way of playing games, and I've been keeping score. They tried to tell me I was lost with no mother when I actually was where I wanted. Bite off the venomous hand, fast as you can. Run for your life. Run for your life. Run for your life.
The grand finale has arrived. It's time. Break out the balloons, the sparklers, the fireworks, the grand celebration for the very last day of the LPL 2018 Summer Split, happening live out of the arena in Chongqing. You can see the fans are all packed in for their hometown heroes. We're coming at you live out of Shanghai. We don't quite have our own balloons and sparklers, but hey, we're celebrating just the same way we can for this big final matchup. I'm Dom. This is Raz. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and it seems like you can't have a party without a few clowns, and they somehow, for whatever reason, left you behind, Dom. What happened?
I'm just kind of trying to get into this game for this next matchup because still there's a lot to talk about in the LPL. It's the grand finale. It's the big celebration. It had to come down to this, the very last day, and we still don't know who we're sending to playoffs. We've got a lot of standings locked down, but there are still just as many spots up left for grabs.
It reminds me of university because it always comes down to the final day. Now, 2 things you have to actually look towards. The Eastern Conference, the final spot, or at least I would say for the second place. RNG going up against JD in the last match of the day to figure out who takes that second place spot, who nest themselves the better bye. We'll see with the next graphic that comes through. But with the Western Conference, who gets the last spot in playoffs between Snake and FPX?
Yeah, that'll be determined in our first match of the day. As you said, though, we're still going to get a chance to see JD versus RNG later on in our match of the week. That's our final game of the day. And of course, it's going to be the grand decider as we look towards that bracket of death and see how that shakes out. But that's not all that we've got going on today. Let's go ahead and bring up today's schedule, what today's games are going to be, so that you can get a full picture. As we said, starting things off, Snake versus EDG, the old neighborhood rivals of Snake taking on Edward Gaming, their old allies. In our first matchup, Snake trying to take that spot away from FPX. But after that, we've got Rogue Warriors, who have already locked in first place, taking on Team WE, who have been eliminated from playoffs completely and are fighting just for Pride.
But you're going to have a great set there just because you mentioned Pride, the Pride of Xi'an coming through. They want to send a loud message to their fan base, not only coming out with a 2-0 victory versus Snake, but coming out with a victory versus the top-seeded team in the Western Conference sends high hope for spring split of next year.
And our final match, as you can see at the bottom, it's JD versus RNG. Again, all of these games will be happening out of Chongqing, so we won't be missing too much of the action, no matter how the schedule shakes out. But this looks to be so much fun, as JD was the first team in 2018 summer to take the victory. I apologize, that game's actually out of Beijing, so we'll be coming to that live whenever that starts. But still, JD was the first team to take a game off of RNG in their home arena, fresh off of their MSI victory.
They've been the second seed for a very long time throughout the split. It's just RNG catching up to them so they can grab it away from them. It's going to be in home court in Beijing, so I want to see if JD can do it once again and rob the audience blind when they're back in Beijing in the Wukesong Stadium.
Yeah, what a world it would be if we get to see RNG drop 2 series against JD, this young up-and-coming roster, to try and lock that spot down and take second and avoid the bracket of death, because that's really what it's turning into. Our playoff bracket, if we were to lock it right now, is looking really dangerous for some of these teams. If you take a look at the bottom half with EDG locked into second, they will inevitably have to seed in against Invictus Gaming. The 2 teams in green, JD and RNG, can still swap depending on that third match.
It's
today.
a double whammy, because remember in Spring Split, RNG had to make the long road and had to face Invictus Gaming. They don't want to do that again. In fact, this is debatably a harder task going up against EDG in the meantime. So for RNG, not only do you want the extra bye, so you don't have to play in the round 1 placements, but you also just want to have an easier seeding going up against TOP or Suning, and then having to go past RW to find yourself in the finals.
Of course, that will be determined on that third matchup. You can see FPX still highlighted in red because their spot has not been locked in. That will be determined in our first matchup. As FPX and Snake, they're currently very close in the standings. And here's how it all breaks down. With how the points are looking, if Snake win their series against Edward Gaming in our first matchup today, they lock in that playoff spot. It doesn't matter if it's 2-0 or a 2-1. It doesn't matter how long it takes, game time, none of that matters. If they win, they're in.
Just naturally, because FPX have gone through so many 3-game series, they just have bad point differences. So it just comes down to being able to take the one victory if you're Snake. So look at the graphic. I mean, sure, FPX, it seems like they're all over. Yeah, they got 4th place locked in. Snake have ownership just because they have more series to play. 2 series in a 24-hour time span. So losing versus WE was unfortunate. Their next opponent, they need that win.
And that's what we should start talking about now, because as we get closer and closer to this matchup kicking off, we're about to get into pick and ban in just a few minutes. Snake have got a lot to prove. This is their chance to get back into playoffs. This is a team that has never really succeeded in the LPL. They've made it into playoffs many, many times, but they've never made it to the top 4, the top 2, and claimed a title for themselves. They've always been the dark horses, the upset. Yesterday was their best chance to lock down their playoff spot against Team WE, but they couldn't even do that with how Team WE were performing.
Because they oftentimes get overlapped by the competitors coming through because the talent is there, and oftentimes when they lose, it happens through their bottom lane. Snake as a team have a revolving door through their bottom lane carries, and the issue is they just play through Flandre and they play through Snake, SOFM. Issue is leaving your AD carry behind, especially up against top tier AD carries, leaves you in team fights like these or laning phase with the enemy carry, where in this case it was Mystic, and today it's going to be iBoy, can just run you over.
And that's a real big mismatch, because as you said, iBoy is showing, as with the game that we saw yesterday, he's willing to play aggressive. He's willing to play the carry in the front line, diving in multiple times despite Mako trying to forcibly extract him from those team fights with the Tom Kench, and then he takes the Kaisa Killer Instinct right back into the front line. He's not a guy who's going to sit back and play passively, but as you can see, EDG and Snake, the 2 neighborhood rivals, are about to clash into this, and it's more than just that bottom lane that's going to determine this matchup. Just like with yesterday's matchup, we'll be keeping our eye on the mid-jungle synergy for the 2, but looking across at Snake's roster, it's Flandre, SOFM, Guogua, Light, and Maestro trying to lock down that 4th place, that last playoff spot.
And you already mentioned Guogua. If he can support SOFM, get him the pressure that he needs so he can get them rolling early, they might have a chance against the competitors. Ray in the top lane, Clear Love, Scout, iBoy, and Mako. Going up against Scout is a difficult lane matchup for Guogua, so he has to be able to handle who is a Rise connoisseur in Scout himself. He had problems versus Xie in that matchup. He has to be able to conquer it today.
We'll have to see if he can learn, or maybe he's got some unique pick to try and match back against that, because again, we call Scout the double-edged sword. Sometimes he swings true for EDG and knocks the game out of the park, but sometimes he kind of swings back and ends up taking them down. So Guogua needs to step up if he wants to try to match that, because next to Scout is Clearlove. Despite Haro playing 2 games yesterday, he didn't quite seem to be on the same page when linked up with Scout and Mako. And when Clearlove stepped in Game 3, all of those communication issues were resolved for EDG, and they looked fantastic.
Yeah, the guidance is what they needed. The experience is what they got from Clearlove. And feels like when it comes to EDG, it is a swinging pendulum for their jungle position, because if you look towards Haro, he's a great carry jungler. He provides a lot of action-packed games that you can get, and you can rely on him to be able to carry out early on in the game, but he doesn't have the experience. This is his rookie season. So a lot of the times when you're seeing the team in disarray later on in the game, as we saw them going up against FPX, it makes sense to bring in Clearlove, who may not be as fiery as Haro can be, but he will be able to calm you guys down, set up for a strong front-to-back team fight. The communication is there for Clearlove, which makes a lot of sense why they're bringing him in for today.
Yeah, we'll have to see if SOFM can find a way around this, because again, if there's anyone that SOFM knows how to play against, it's his old neighborhood buddy in Clearlove. Again, way back in the day when EDG, Snake, and previously Aime, who are now Billy, were still in Shanghai, all three of them lived on the same block in the same 3 team houses, side by side, would scrim together, would order food together, would practice together. So these are players that are intimately familiar with their playstyles. And SOFM, he's the kind of guy who plays around Vision and invades in the jungle. There could be an opportunity for him to try to set Clearlove back.
That's why it's really fun to be able to see the neighborhood battles come back again. Because when EDG face Billy, you get some weird compositions, questionable playstyles, but it's because there's so much familiarity that they have a good read on jungle pathing. And when Snake go up against, you get to see SOFM really try and take advantage of the jungle matchup, and Clearlove try and adopt some of the champions or playstyles that SOFM has. So it's going to be really sick to just have a greater eye on the jungle matchup, because Clearlove has learned and has taken a few things out of SOFM's playbook. And so if you go towards playoffs, this is a great place to start if Clearlove wants to have a larger say in the early game.
We're even seeing him start to take some more aggressive champions like Xin Zhao to set up for the team fights for EDG. He doesn't use them as a carry champion, but uses them as that team fighting front to back that brings so much safety and assurance towards Team EDG. So we'll see what they decide to take as we enter into this pick and ban, and Snake are actually going to be the ones who throw down that jungle gauntlet, banning away the Olaf. We were expecting SOFM to try to take that to invade and bully out Clearlove, but with that jungle ban, it looks like even EDG are saying, no, we're going to stick to our own jungle. You're going to do the same thing.
That means Kindred is going to be so high in priority. I expected the Olaf to be picked up, as you already mentioned. Usually, in the past, metas come through, and SOFM will pick his jungle early on. This time around, not going to be the case, and just yesterday, he got frustrated going up against Pepper and not really having the early jungle impact that he would have wanted. Now, knowing that he's potentially going up against a Gragas, Kindred has to be in the backside of his mind, and I wonder if they're going to have the necessary engage, knowing that it's going to be the AD carry jungler.
Yeah, we've seen a very early Varus priority towards light EDG. No surprise, they're showing us a very strong team fight composition. Gragas locked in for their team. We've seen Ray take it in the top lane. It's very strong. It's flexed. Mako also took it during Asian games in the bottom lane. Surely he's been practicing that with Uzi as well. So we'll see whether or not that Gragas ends up getting flexed, but now Snake get a response.
Very intelligent for EDG, because as you mentioned, the Gragas can go in either Clearlove or Ray's pocket. They just value the champion, and they've structured the bans, the pick and bans, to force Snake to pick up the Kindred. If they pick up Kindred, then guess what? Xayah feathers are just waiting for the Kindred ultimate to go down. You have the Gragas ulti to just bop everybody out of the ultimate themselves. So the strategy is very clear for EDG. Bait SOFM into the pick, and so you can just nail him down in the later games in the team fights.
We'll see if he falls into that trap, as currently it is a Ryze Tahm Kench setup, as Snake, once again, they prioritize their bottom lane with something nice and safe, the Varus Kench against what is going to be inevitable harass, but already EDG are showing that's not going to be a Gragas jungle as Xin Zhao is locked in. Another point, that Ryze can also be flexed for Snake. You mentioned that Scout is a Ryze connoisseur, can definitely play against the matchup. Well, let's hope that Ray can do the same thing if that gets flexed back to Flandre.
Yeah, just knowing that Snake is a team that is so damn good at being able to flex their picks, it's a high value for Flandre to be able to get his hands on the Ryze, especially on blue side. Makes you second guess Ray's counter picks, not having a good enough idea. So we'll have to see what Gogo ends up picking for himself. Because Gogo is not the flexing type. Maybe if Vladimir comes out, then you can say, well, I can put this top side or mid. But oftentimes he waits a little bit and then ends up picking out the Orianna, and so you have a good idea where that's headed.
a real big fan of taking those safe, long-range mages. Rise falls right into his wheelhouse. That Orianna that you mentioned, we saw him play Galio yesterday.
That's true.
Wasn't too great effect, but still was able to have powerful Shield of Duran taunts onto Mystic whenever he got close enough. So we'll see if he takes that Rise or if he tries to look to bait in the counter pick for EDG, because they're going to have to show something with this next pick.
I would like EDG to ban out the Sejuani next, because their strategy has been so catered towards giving the Kindred away that Snake just wants engage. Look at what Snake has actually built for themselves and realize that there's so much lack of engage or follow-up on the Varus ultimate that having a Sejuani would really complete Snake's composition. So I like the fact that EDG's just struck it out.
There's that Sejuani ban. Now we're looking at the Syndra ban towards Scout. It's so good at assassinating a target. Yesterday we saw, I believe it was the Luden's Echo Spellbinder second for Syndra, which is push 2 buttons. You activate Spellbinder, then you press R on the AD carry, and they end up getting deleted.
Yeah.
So FPX weren't feeling too good about that one.
Worst thing about that is it's a great setup for Scatter of the Week too. So just take the Syndra out of it. There's just so many unknowns in a team fight and how impactful she can be.
Now we're looking at how EDG decide to round out their composition. If they show us this Braum here, then they're saving counter pick for Scout in the mid lane, but they give over that Gragas top for Rhea, which means Flandre gets to look for that counter pick. They've played towards carry tops in the past. They've played towards Flandre carrying in the past. How do they set themselves up? Do they continue to go towards that style and leave bottom lane on an island? Oh, Jarvan.
Could be a Jarvan jungle, but we have to see if the Gnar gets picked up, because just yesterday, WE nailed down the Gnar really early on and didn't want Flandre to get the pick. We had at least one of those games, but in which it was picked away. It was given to 957. Not going to be the case if this gets locked in.
Oh yeah, that's a confident pick for SOFM. We have so
Give it
many
to me.
good Lee Sins in the LPL.
Lock it in!
Timer's running down, and he does. SOFM says, all right, this is it. We win this series, we get into playoffs. Boys, get on my back.
Full confidence, because you don't get to see Lee Sin in this meta. And when you do, it's when full confidence is in the jungler to be able to say, I know who I'm going up against. I don't give a damn that it's a bad matchup. I know I'm going up against Clearlove. So get the nameplates on and let me be able to challenge him early on. And of course, when you hit level 6, the CC is what matters. SOFM has been so damn impactful on the Lee Sin just based off the utility of the pick alone. So you don't get the Sejuani for the engage, but Lee Sin is great for pick opportunities.
Oh yeah, absolutely huge setup. And if you look at Snake's composition, they've got pretty good pick everywhere across the board. Excellent follow-up on the Jarvan using the Dragon Standard and the Dragon Strike to get the knockup. Lee Sin, the Sonic Wave, Dragon's Rage to knock someone back. Rune Prison to follow up. Chains of Corruption, Devour for the stun, Tongue Lash for even more.
Preach!
Everywhere Snake go, they can look for a lane and try to dogpile on top of that. But they're looking at EDG, one of the best vision teams in the league, one of the best teams at playing it safe during the early game. It's going to take something really creative from Snake if they want to get their composition rolling.
That's why the first pathing for both of these junglers are incredibly impactful. That Lee Sin is much slower than the Xin Zhao. So Xin Zhao is probably just going to try and face him at a scuttle. If he sees Lee Sin at a Scuttle Crab, it's lights out for the Lee Sin. He's going to have to try and farm it out because you don't want to have a 2v2. And with the Xin Zhao is going to be going face-to-face with Lee Sin, you actually just outright lose that unless the Lee Sin can get creative with that. So we'll have to see. It all comes down to how smart the IQ of Clearlove in the early portions of this game, and if you can nail down where SOFM is.
And these two players so very familiar with each other with their pathings. We even got to see the jungle pathing evolve yesterday between EDG and FPX over the duration of that series, and Snake mimicking that exact same pathing style in their set just afterwards. So we could very well see something creative in this matchup. We've got ourselves that carry Lee Sin from SOFM. It's not going to be from damage, but it's going to be from setup towards his carries. So as we prepare to load onto the Rift, you can see Snake are leaning forward already. Maestro communicating aggressively as we load onto the Rift, but SOFM cool as a cucumber. And we get into this game one, this final decider for Team Snake, fighting for their playoff spot against Team Edward Gaming. Former allies, but now they're rivals.
战场，免信。
I'm telling you, the Chongqing crowd are facing perpetual invasion for the Xi'an crowd and just the Edward Gaming swarm. So they're always going to be having a fight. On the Rift is 1 point, but also just the fans having at it. Light, watch out!
Ooh, caught by the Winter's Bite.
Steel chair.
He's got some passive regeneration, starting with the Dorian Shield, so he should be fine to heal up. We could see Guoguo's hanging out in the river as SOFM is actually holding his ground in the mid lane, and a defensive ward placed by EDG to scout for any invades.
Some rapid pings.
Yeah, so much constant communication. SOFM even dropping the bring it on emote in the mid lane against Scout. He knows that this is the decider, this is the match, and he is ready to rise to the occasion. It's going to be a red start from both of our junglers. Leash given over by Team Snake to springboard SOFM forward, whereas Clearlove gets his own leash from Ray.
So you got to wonder what Clearlove's going to end up doing in his pathing. Usually if you do start on your red side, you just go for a full clear and you head towards your Krug camp. It might not be viable when you know that Lee Sin is trying to go for something himself. That being said, actually, surprisingly enough, Lee Sin is going for a Krugs of his own. So he's not going to go for his Raptors. That's the point that he'll stop at, because he just takes a lot of damage. Doesn't have the sustain that a Xin Zhao would necessarily have. So playing it slow should be what Lee Sin does now.
And look at this clever pathing from Clearlove. There was defensive vision placed by both Scout and Mako in the river to watch for any cheesy SOFM level 2 plays. Clearlove clears his red buff and races to the bottom river Scuttle Crab.
That's what I said in coming into this, is that we wanted to see Clearlove just outright go towards a Scuttle Crab, even if it's just level 2, and just have eyes on SOFM. He's failed in that regard because he's got the Scuttle Crab, sure, and there's a lot of vision out there, but he still doesn't know where that Lee Sin is. So Lee Sin actually getting a full clear towards his bot side gives you a better indication that he's trying to race to level 6. He might get a gank off in the meantime, but he has enough experience compared to Clearlove where he's going to be able to get to it much quickly.
Yeah, we just saw an on my way ping out of Snake. I can only assume that was from SOFM as he finishes off his Raptor camp. And look at that. The ward in Pixel Brush has just expired. Scout, he steps up for the cannon.
Just one Q.
He's going to continue pushing forward. That's Rune Prison. SOFM walks it forward, but Flash already used from Scout. Clearlove mimics with his own, looking for the knock-up, lands a slow, but SOFM gets slowed by the command attack. 100 health left, but a teleport way behind them from both of our top laners. Who's going to go for it? Guoguo teleports out. That's a turret shot onto Clearlove. Flandre is in, but he's on the wrong side of this. Auto attacks Ray, and now he's forced to take the long way around. Doesn't want to waste his knock-up and get collapsed upon, but ooh, this is tense.
Yeah, he wanted to hold his body slam just in case Flandre ends up going for his EQ combination, because he can go for the all-in on Clearlove.
And Flandre is actually tracking Clearlove right now, which is buying time for SOFM to clear his own jungle and heal back up. Guoguo teleported back into the mid lane and got himself a recall off of this as Flandre is continuing to put the pressure on. But there's no assistance from SOFM just yet because he is such low health.
This is the Flandre special. He's often known as someone who, if he gets pressure topside, will send in a deeper vision on either Krugs or Raptors. But this time around, he just knows where Clearlove is and understands that he can contest the Raptors himself. So it's a good decision from Ray to protect Clearlove in that situation, because if it was just a 1v1, he'd be walking in much deeper to contest for the Logger
look
Cup.
up top. Ray placed a defensive ward as he tries to push this wave in and prevent a freeze. He sees SOFM, sees that he's down to half health. I don't know if he quite sees him recalling there. He might be just outside of vision. But still, this is a dicey matchup. We were looking for clever jungler pathing, but already we're seeing how Flandre is brought into the mix, how Guoguo is already starting to interact and follow up on Flandre's pressure.
Yeah, I just like the fact that even with what was a smart early gank on towards mid lane, that Clearlove caught onto it very quickly and is able to get the counter gank that we were talking about. We didn't want to see a 2v2 if Snake wants to get a lead. If the Xin Zhao shows up, you leave that party. And so at the end of the day, SOFM and Guoguo had to burn their flash for that one. And so it just means that Scout and Clearlove actually completed their job in protecting their early lane.
And while it is opening up an advantage for Flandre in the top lane, already 22 CS ahead of Ray,
man.
You can see the difference that's happening in the bottom lane. iBoy and Mako are just pushing happily into Light and Maestro, opening up 12 CS, 2 full minion waves, and forcing out Light's first healing potion. He doesn't have a teleport, so he's catching this wave as it comes in, but it looks like iBoy trying to go for an early recall and look for a lane advantage. But SOFM on this side of the map, doesn't get a chance to interact with it.
It should just be a proper lane for Maestro and Light. This is a good matchup for them. Range-wise, they should be able to take the matchup, but obviously that's not how it's been playing out. And ever since iBoy and Mako got the first push on Wave, they've had such strong control around the bush. Here comes SOFM.
Once again, that's the snare. Sonic Wave, they
Got it.
found him, and SOFM gets the ward hop over the wall and finds first blood.
And that's 400 gold in the bank with that kill gold. So right there, that's what SOFM wanted to do. He played it very creatively too, avoided the wards in the river just by going into a ward hop, kicks right in, because Guoguo set him up with a great snare.
And even pushing the minion wave up to deny Scout that follow-up CS. Clearlove will absorb the golden experience, but this is what we were hoping to see as we are taking
that
a look
blue
at
buff.
this replay for SOFM. Nope, that's live. That's the replay.
And that was the key to getting the kill. Net yourself the blue buff, then get that kill. Thumbs up. But no, in reality, it was just a great play from SOFM being able to ward hop in. He evaded so many wards, being able to get through the control ward, what was literally just sitting there in the bush beside him. So knowing he can evade it, excellently done. He nets himself the early advantage.
And starts to springboard Guoguo in the mid lane. We were talking about the mid-jungle synergy. Already we're seeing Snake. They identified the importance of that matchup yesterday, watching the EDG FPX setup, and now they're trying to do the exact same thing as SOFM's looking for round 2. He's level 6. Scout walks up.
Look, it's the power of blue buff. Just take a look at that. Junglers worldwide, if you want to have success, take every blue buff imaginable. Doesn't matter if you're an energy jungler. This is what we're looking for, the level advantage that SOFM has.
Level 6 over Clearlove's level 5. Clearlove trying to pull Scout there, but the wave already pushed in by Guoguo. He collapses. Clearlove is just trying to take the Raptor camp now, but SOFM, this is the one place that he would be above all others, and invading the camp. Now Shockwave is ready for Scout. Guoguo lands the snare. That's going to be a cleanse. Shockwave pulls him in, but they still get the Dragon Rage execution. Realm Warp, SOFM over the wall, and he's going to smite to heal himself up on the Raptor camp. Oh, Clearlove with no flash cannot follow either of those targets.
Just not expecting the damage that Lee Sin has here. Has level 6 and has double longsword. You have to respect him. Didn't come through clear. I mean, Scout thought he could dodge out in both of them.
They're still looking for the dive. They land the
He
damage.
got him!
Sonic Wave at SOFM outside of the turret, plus the red buff walks away. Now iBoy is set to collapse. Guoguo nearly has his flash back up, but Flandre's here to support this. He's gotten push pressure, but clearing out this ward shows that he's here and dissuades EDG from collapsing. And Snake, off the back of SOFM camping the mid lane, have completely shut down Scout and Clearlove.
Look, SOFM is the king of Vietnam. He came in with that Lee Sin. That's what he was known for. And so when you look towards our Lee Sin players in the LPL, he is a natural addition, and what makes you really just enjoy the play that he has. So strong early game from SOFM. You could see what he wanted to achieve in this game compared to what happened yesterday. He wanted to have the impact early on. He's able to do that with his pick.
And we're seeing a massive advantage not only in that mid and jungle, but also converting to Flandre up top. 30 CS ahead for Snake. And still, we've got to look at that bottom lane as we take stock of the entire matchup and get towards this 10-minute mark. iBoy is still opening up an advantage over Light and Maestro. Snake, they haven't changed their style. They haven't changed the recipe. They're still leaving Light and Maestro out to dry on that complete island on the bottom half of the map. And certainly the Ryze and the Jarvan and the Lee Sin are going to do great work in the mid game and in team fights later on. But you have to have the follow-up damage from Varus, especially when you're looking across from a Xayah Braum that can land stuns and survive for so long.
So just free him, honestly. There are two ways to do that. Either go for a topside dive that you have the Jarvan with, so I mean, as long as you can go for that dive immediately, of course EDG is going to respond and try and dive bottom lane. That's a trade that you end up making. Or to your point, I mean, level 6 on Light, that's engaged right there. You can look to try and play around bottom lane from this point forward. Either way, SOFM has to start moving, because the last thing he wants, looking back to what happened, the failures of yesterday, is not act. Stall out, decisions not being made, is one of the major mistakes that can have in this series.
Well, so far it seems like he's acting very happily as he invades Clearlove's Krug camp. Light is stepping up, but Clearlove is thinking about a gank down bottom. I don't know if he thinks he's been spotted or not. He wasn't, but still decides to play it safe, look for that Scuttle Crab, and then turn over to the Dragon, as they did spot, again, SOFM on the other side of the map. So still, EDG happy to take whatever concessions are left open to them on the bottom lane.
And Clearlove just recognizes that he's not going to be contested on this Cloud Dragon just because they had eyes on Lee Sin topside. So he's going for the Cloud, but he has to get a better decision because the moment SOFM and Guoguo are seen here.
That's the Realm Warp. Ray drops the barrel for a slow. Good Comet slows it down even further. Dragon is taken, and now it looks like Team Snake are rushing for the top tier 1.
Two options for Clearlove is either to go for a dive bottom lane, know that Tahm Kench is with the Varus under tower, or try and push mid for that mid lane tower. Not acting fast enough is just an outright advantage here for SOFM in the top lane.
Guoguo nearly has his own teleport, so he should be able to try and defend that mid lane or even a potential dive bottom, but it ends up defusing. Ray steps forward, is able to negotiate the vision safely and get a ward onto the Rift Herald. This is a safe play that Snake have done so many times, the 10-minute Rift Herald take on that top half of the map.
Yeah, just 2 steps ahead is what Ray is. Ray understanding that the next advantage is going to be Rift Herald, so the moment you get eyes on SOFM, and hell, if Flandre comes out and helps, it gives an idea for EDG when their windows are available.
And take a look at that gold difference in the jungle.
Oh, no.
2,000 gold ahead for SOFM. Another 1,000 gold lead for Flandre, who's
Watch
thinking
out,
of a
Scout.
dive onto Scout. Even SOFM's ready to ward hop over the wall. There he goes. That's the Cataclysm. A
Thumbs
quick
up.
flash, and Flandre says, "Hey, good reaction. You got out this time."
Good job.
All right, I'll give you that one.
Nice
but
flash.
that's the pressure conversion that we're seeing. Now already SOFM is pinging onto that Rift Herald, still ignoring the bottom lane, but look at how safe Light and Maestro are playing it down here. They're not stepping up. They saw that iBoy and Mako were missing, and even though it was a cannon wave, they still sacrificed a handful of CS just to eliminate any risk that the Xayah Braum would step up and help them.
And just look at what is happening in the bottom lane in terms of if they do get dived. Because there's not any sticking power coming out of Xin Zhao, Braum composition. Like both of them, if they were to get on towards Mountain Member, that they would have to lay down a few autos before they can actually get the stun. And even then, Maestro has perfect timing. He's gone in towards the Inspiration Tree naturally, so he's going to be able to stopwatch and then flash. So this time around, even just holding on to both flash and exhaust, he is as safe as you can be.
Now Mako and iBoy are trying to step up and clear out some of this vision on the bottom half so they can continue to snowball this advantage they've accrued during the laning phase. Snake are trying to trade that on the top lane by looking for this Rift Herald, but Mako and iBoy are being pulled up in rotation to match it. There are 5 members of EDG here and only 4 from Snake. Light's about to show himself, pushing to the bottom tier 1. He's pulling the attention of iBoy.
As long as he can pull iBoy over, you can see what Varus ends up doing. Now, he's going to take this time to auto the tower. The other option was for him to move up and try and pressure mid lane himself. A few teams would actually utilize that rather than lay a few more autos there. We'll see. You can see SOFM immediately moving now, knowing that iBoy is committed to the bot side of the map.
There is so much vision control from EDG that Light's forced to pull back early, but SOFM, preps himself with the ward kick, lands the Sonic Wave, but a cast knocks him sideways. Rift Herald wants to get in on the action, but Clearlove resets it. Guoguo with the Realm Warp over the wall. He's found Clearlove, but a flash away. Remember, Ray used his earlier. Cataclysm catches him, and Ray will go down. Guoguo finds the kill. 4-0, Snake in the lead.
There's so much sticking power. The best we've seen from Snake is when Flandre has the power on either Jarvan or Camille. He's net himself to Jarvan, and so when he plays the team fight, he's dishing out the damage, and he knows when you can actually look to empower his own team. So Cataclysm is currently being used for damage, but as the game goes on, he's definitely going to be such a sticking power with the CC, the barrier that it ends up having. So take a look at this. They're just following through because they know that Guoguo is coming in. And so they just chose their target. They can either go for Clearlove, but they have an idea that Clearlove has his own flash, or Ray, who's been actually just sticking his head out for so long and doesn't have his summoners available.
And all of this complete focus on the top lane has opened a 48 CS advantage for Flandre, and now the Rift Herald, not to mention first brick being split amongst SOFM and Flandre. So still, we're seeing these huge investments placed by Snake. But slowly but surely, they're giving up ground on the bottom half. Eventually, that's going to spill over as wave after wave crashes in. Next cannon wave might be the one to do it, especially with Clearlove hanging out down here and dropping ping after ping.
This might be a good reenactment of the Alamo in the bottom lane. Light
Remember
and
the
Maestro.
sacrifice.
Yeah, because they're just trying to wait They don't know if this wave is going to be the last wave that they hold on to, but they're just trying to buy as much time because right now SOFM, Guoguo, and Flandre are accelerating the game and are forcing Clearlove to act. He's looking towards bottom lane. They have good vision towards bottom lane, but Clearlove's recognizing that at the moment he shows his face there, that Snake are going to move towards mid lane, and Scout's going to be the first target.
They're still trying to hold their ground, but Clearlove, he's going to have to try and open this game up. As you said, Snake are forcing this pressure, constantly pushing top and using that rotation mid.
So here's the problem he has to face. If he goes bottom lane, you're already wasting time. Second one, Maestro and Light have both summoners, so if you go in for this fight, they're not even using sums in the 2v2.
Ooh, that was Eyeboy. Chains of Corruption from Light landing and hitting Eyeboy. Mako's able to get the save by bringing up the door, and Eyeboy's still holding his ground, but here comes Clearlove. He's looking for Maestro. Knock up and stun are staggered. Whoa! Eyeboy survives, but he should not have. Takes to the skies to dodge the arrow, but here's SOFM. He's got the flash. He's got himself a Chilling Smite, but doesn't quite land it. Clearlove is the first target, tries to deliver him through. Even Flandre gets in on the action, and SOFM with a Ward Hop Smite finally locks it down. 7-1 for Snake.
King SOFM. 5-0-2, and he was trying to line him up. You can tell he's a pool player, that he loves himself some billiards.
Set up the angles.
He tried to get the kill and realized, I'm just going to ward hop and try and net it. So already look towards Lee Sin, because he's walking towards the bottom lane, has a good understanding that's where Clearlove was. So his hunch was correct, and was able to ward hop in with the good job Light did already nailing down Eyeboy, and look at his HP bar. And so here we go, boom. Of course, unfortunately, Clearlove didn't travel far enough, so SOFM had to clean it up himself.
In the bottom left-hand corner, you could see there was a skirmish going on between Guoguo and Scout. Guoguo dropped the Rift Herald in the mid lane to keep Scout busy, traded his own health with Scouts to push for damage on the turret. He didn't end up taking it, but he bought enough time for the bottom tier 1 clear on the back of that play and the Cloud Dragon pickup from Snake that we just saw. So still, Snake are relentless in this constant pressure. All 3 lanes pushing and trying to take an advantage, as now this will start to equalize the gold, and as a matter of fact, gets Light ahead of Eyeboy in gold by about 300-400. So even with the CS advantage that Eyeboy is sitting on, he's not able to do anything with it, and the snowball finally starts to tip over into other lanes for Snake.
And he has a long road ahead of him before he's relevant. Sure, you have the Storm Razors, but being able to get the first Zeal item, I would even say you'd want to be able to get the Infinity Edge before you can deal some respectable damage versus the Snake squad. So at this point in time, Eyeboy has some farming to do. He needs to be able to get something going for himself, so EDG has the team fights that they can get for themselves, and look at this.
Yeah, we're also seeing a compositional difference between EDG and Snake, as Snake are more than happy to set up a 1-3-1 with Flandre and Guoguo in side lanes, Light, Maestro, and SOFM sitting happily in the mid, constantly rotating back and forth with that Tahm Kench Abyssal Voyage.
And this is just so hard to deal with, because Flandre, whenever he pushes bottom lane, he's already moving towards the mid lane because he has the Cataclysm. He wants to fight. And Realm Warp is there for the Guoguo pick, so whenever he pushes top lane, he can be there immediately. So that mid lane tower had no chance of surviving. And with 2 minutes, I would say 1 minute left for the Baron to come up, EDG need to act now. They can't stall the game out, because the composition Snake have for themselves is actually very good at being able to clear out Baron.
Oh yeah, Blade of the Ruined King already finished off on Light. He's working towards that Guinsoo's for additional shred, the Rise for huge burst. Opposite, though, EDG do have some scaling on their own. Yes, they don't quite have the aggressive Baron shred that Snake have, but they've got huge team fight, excellent zone control when they manage to group up as 5. Xayah Feathers, Braum Glacial Fissure, the command attacks from Orianna, the Crescent Sweep to reset fights, the Gragas barrels. Everyone has a way to set up space and try to zone out of this, but SOFM is dodging through that just by walking forwards and using the Sonic Wave to get over that zone control. And if EDG make plays like this where they don't respond to the rotations in time, they're going to continue to hemorrhage objectives before that Baron spawns.
Yeah, but the game's not over yet, and to your point about what composition EDG have, just having the Gragas makes you feel comfortable knowing that you can either stall out the game on the wave clear that he has, but also with the engage he has present with the cast. So the pick potential is still there for EDG, and one of the major struggles that Lee Sin has is being able to close out a game. Sure, he has a Knight's Vow, so he has a little bit of tankiness that he can utilize, but being able to move towards these inhibitor towers is very difficult when you see the tanky brutes that EDG have present for them. Can't move past Braum, and super difficult to move past Gragas. That's the next challenge for SOFM.
And this is where we see how creative he can get. EDG set up Vision to defend Eyeboy as he pushes up top, looking for that completed second Zeal item, while SOFM patrols around. He's not even worried about the vision around this Baron. He knows it's not a vision game. It's how quickly can he collapse and pick off a target with this Lee Sin? How quickly can his team rotate between objectives with this Tahm Kench, with this Ryze Realm Warp, with the Jarvan Collapse? And whether or not EDG will have enough of a forewarning with their vision in advance to react and defend in time. All of that being said, that comes down to Clearlove and Mako. Do they set up the visions in such a way, their vision in such a way that gives them enough forewarning, or do they continue to get caught out by this 5-0 and 2 Lee Sin?
I think this is a good chance for EDG to just farm up, just because while that's looming over them, they know that Flandre doesn't have teleport available to himself. The same can be said for Guoguo. So this Baron pressure that Snake have isn't real. Ray has the pressure to move, and they'll have a numbers advantage if they see fit. So Snake shouldn't choose a fight, even though it looks pretty damn appealing.
They're trying to press forward and bait some members of EDG towards the Baron pit, but so excellently patient. They don't waste any time. Play defensive, using that Winter's Bite to set up some vision and make sure they don't overextend. As Ray is trying to catch this minion wave bottom, he set up this huge plethora of wards down here to keep himself safe and prevent any counter dives or plays from Snake, similar to the one that collapsed on the tier 2 a moment ago. And like you said, EDG, they're just sitting back. They're catching these waves as they come in. There's the Sonic Wave from SOFM, but he can't take this with 3 members of EDG there.
But the next time he throws a kick, he can actually go for it. Just because EDG are going to have to go up against double teleport just activated. Flandre and Guoguo are now available for these fights. So Flandre, a lot of pressure here.
Get some big chip damage onto the mid-tier 2, but it's still standing. Ray has grouped up with his team. Guoguo already pushing up top.
Yeah, there we go. Already getting the massive wave topside. So this is super annoying for EDG. Oh no.
But when he lands the Rune Prison combo off a bounce to Eyeboy, he disrespects the Spell Flux on minions and eats a lot of damage with Eyeboy off the map. It's effectively a 5v4. Realm Warp gets him to mid. That's the Sonic Wave we were talking about, but Snaker already grouped as 5. Ray is on the side. Light slowed by the barrel. That's the Comet for even more.
Just unfortunate they didn't have a real wave there, because they should have been rapid firing pressure knowing that the AD carry, Eyeboy, had to base. So that was really well done from Guoguo. The splash on towards Eyeboy, setting him up for a much more empowered route, caused Eyeboy to just take down 60% of his HP and would have lost the team fight if anything followed up.
Now he's not used his heal or his flash, just using that ultimate. And while the wave did push in top while they were getting back onto the map, Snake once again didn't quite have it prepped in time, weren't able to react and push into the tier 2, but it's pressure in 2 lanes. Flandre pulling this wave back as he sees Eyeboy out of position, but they have to be respectful because now EDG have gotten far enough forward that they can move faster between the tier 2s than Snake can.
Good defense and good defensive vision coming out of EDG, because had they have lost that top lane inner tower, losing both inner towers would be too damaging to being able to defend the Baron. 23 minutes makes it pretty easy for Snake to just move towards the Baron, and then have they push an extra wave towards these inhibitor towers, it's actually too hard of a task for EDG to move towards their own jungle to try and defend for Baron. So it's a little easier now, and might set the stage for the next battle towards the next Baron buff.
Now is the next dragon going to spawn? The last elemental dragon of the game. Is that Cloud? Snake picked themselves up a mountain. Their already powerful Baron Shred has just become even stronger, and this chip damage that they've gotten on the turrets over the past few waves also becomes a little bit stronger if they continue to get this chip. So EDG, slowly but surely, they're running out of time to make mistakes and take these chances. But now they've set up a trap with Mako. Control Ward over the wall spots him. He's trying to feign a bait. He pulls Eyeboy towards it.
This is probably the best chance for Snake to look for a fight. I understand that Ray is primed and ready, but the items are really online here. So Guoguo finishing up his Seraphs, completed, it's fully stacked. Stopwatches are there for Light and Maestro if they were to be challenged. And the Sterix Gauge there for Flandre, so he can actually just start the fight and not have any fear of getting bursted down. So it's there for Snake, where Sterix Gauge is still being picked up by Clearlove, so he's going to be pretty easy the moment he charges in to zero in on it.
Yeah, right now it's only the Joram's Fist. At best, he can knock someone back, try and reset the fight. and then turn around and run and hope he survives long enough to make it back to his team. But here's the vision around Baron. Team Snake have cleared out most of the pits. They're using that 1-3-1 side pressure to force EDG into a very uncomfortable situation.
And Snake have to be really precise with the vision control that they have here. Because having a Lee Sin on your team is great, but that means that Maestro is going to have full ownership of clearing out wards. But they're going in for the
Realm
fight.
Warp into the mid lane. Flandre finds the Cataclysm. Even the Observer couldn't find Clear Love. He's able to reset it with the Crescent Sweep, but a stopwatch onto Eyeboy. He heals and flashes away. SOFM runs it out. Shockwave and a double stopwatch denies Scout's damage. Light still takes a hit from the Winter's Bite, but somehow Snake end up coming out worse for wear as they try to get a little bit too greedy with that play.
They just cleared the stage of stopwatches. They could have gotten the execution on Eyeboy, and then he was gold. They were so close to being able to net down both Maestro and Light, but Scout was upset. Both gold too. So at the very least now, the next fight someone will die. I will say that certainty, because there's so much damage on the field, and no one was able to get it off.
Now, Eyeboy, at more health than the members of the Snake roster, is empowered to step forward. EDG are trying to chase in, but Flandre, fresh out of base with full health and mana, looking to chase this. Mako sidesteps the Dragon Strike.
The Dragon Rage is now up. So SOFM, if he finds him once more, that pick is going to be crucial. He has his Ward Hop, he has his Flash. That is going to be crucial to being able to get a pick, but they're just going straight towards the Baron.
They're turning on towards it. Eyeboy and Mako show themselves in the mid lane. Already Ray is nearby. They're trying to get towards the pit. There's no Shockwave yet from Scout, but they're chasing on to Eyeboy. He's still got Flash. Flandre eats a stun, saved by Maestro, who has no Flash. A knockup pins him out of position. Guogo gets reset over the ramp, and still no one dies. Somehow these fights are going even.
Couldn't act fast enough to follow up on the ultimate that Flandre laid out. Sure, Eyeboy lost a lot of HP, but you know Eyeboy, if he's not close to death, he's not going to use his Flash. He challenges Snake to follow up. It didn't happen, and now he's still ready for the next fight, life-stealing, and has the summoners available.
Trying to heal himself back up as red buff is prepped over for Light. He makes his way back into the mid lane. BF Sword now picked up along with those Ninja Tabi. And this game is getting real close. If EDG are able to turn around and win a fight pretty handedly over Snake, death timers are getting pretty big. EDG might be the ones who end up taking the Baron.
Flatly put, the fact that this game is stalling out is excellent for EDG. 306 CS on Eyeboy at this point. He is so close to getting Infinity Edge, just picked up both of his recipes, so just on his last back got the BF Sword. He just needed those 3 items before he can really just walk out, be able to challenge Flandre in a lot of these engages. Here we go, though. It just depends on if this fight works well for Snake or not.
Yeah, they're maneuvering around. EDG just saw Snake bottom, and they look and see Flandre. Maestro gets caught by the Shockwave teleport, but already Maestro is dead. Clear Love is going to get that kill, but teleport completed. Flandre kites it out, fresh out of base. Cataclysm finds free, a Crescent Sweep and a cast. Reset the front line. No Shockwave from Scout, but Flandre caught by the snare. Eyeboy firing over the wall. EDG have got the range, they've got the high ground. Another Demacian standard forces EDG back, and there's the lifesteal you were talking about from Eyeboy.
There are just no clear targets for Snake. Finally, when Jarvan joins the fight, losing Maestro at the get-go, they couldn't find anybody. The Crescent Strike coming
He's over the wall, knock up on the Eyeboy. He almost gets the burst, but Eyeboy's still alive. He's somehow kiting it out. SOFM gets the kill, and look at that, a double kill. EDG are destroyed. It's a double-double. Going over to both Light and SOFM. Somehow over the wall, they're able to find EDG out of position and rushing onto the Baron.
Eyeboy got eviscerated. Did not see his life go down that quickly because Flandre come in. Of course, the flank going through from SOFM, perfectly timed, and they're able to get so much off the board for it.
Ray survives to defend his inhibitor turret, but the top tier 2 is about to go down. And here it is, Flandre hitting the one target he needed to.
It feels like 100-0. It feels like he didn't need the extra help from his team. But they got it. It was overkill. They were able to rout the rest of them. Gragas, the only survivor.
And that's where EDG panicked, trying to keep Eyeboy alive. They leave themselves defenseless to Guoguo, who has now picked up the Morellos and the Spellbinder. He walks up, unleashes a huge spell flux onto Scout, and then overcharges it across Scout, Clear Love, and Mako to pick up those kills. And somehow now Snake find themselves securely in the driver's seat, 13,000 gold ahead of Edward Gaming. the second place team in their conference. They have taken fate into their own hands, and they are looking to close out this game 1 in a confident fashion.
And that is the type of fight that you look back on and say that's game ending. Because losing that fight, losing the Baron to follow, which they've been dancing pretty easily around, had they had tapered that off, slowed it down, Infinity Edge would have been picked up by iBoy. They would have been super ready for the next fight. Scout flashing in to send out his ultimate would have been really easily followed up on. So for EDG, they had a great window when Flandre wasn't there. But when he joined up and the follow-up fight come through, then honestly, EDG are going to be looking back at it and wondering how it went so wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Flandre has Flame Horizon Ray. The middle inhibitor turret goes down at about the same time that Flandre is pushing bottom. This 1-3-1 is unstoppable. SOFM just standing his ground to apply Baron to the minion. And look at that piercing arrow onto iBoy. That was with reduced damage as it did hit Clearlove in the front. Guogua finishes off the top inhibitor turret, is breaking it down, finishes off the inhibitor mid, and EDG are just giving up ground all across the board. They cannot match this multi-lane pressure from Snake.
There's way too much happening, and the minions are just way too empowered at this point. It just means that the line has to get drawn towards the Nexus towers. Ray has to start the fight. Either him or maybe Orianna gets an excellent ultimate. Someone needs to start this one.
With Baroned up cannons firing onto the Nexus turrets, EDG, they've got to act, and they've got to act now. They're running out of time. It's only 2 attacks. Flandre forces the fight. He's found Scout. Shockwave flings him back in. He shields himself, but the Nexus turret goes down. Clearlove on the front line, going toe-to-toe against Gorgor, will die as SOFM gets it. Sonic Wave onto iBoy. The turret falls. He's running back to the fountain, but the Nexus is burned down, and Snake take game 1. A single victory stands between Snake and playoffs.
2 factors: familiarity and just that hard lesson of what happened yesterday. They knew they needed to fire early. They needed to fight hard. SOFM had his option. He locked in the Lee Sin, and he styled. I'd be so surprised if he doesn't come out of game 1 with the MVP.
And no hesitation from Snake to step up and head backstage, not even checking the damage graphs because that doesn't matter in this game. It's all about the Nexus. It's all about how they played as a team to collectively pull Edward Gaming apart and nullify each and every single one of their strengths.
That's a pretty smooth graph, as you can see. The only stalling factor was an EDG played it well around red side jungle, being able to stall it out for their items. But Snake, the moment they found that window of opportunity is when they struck. Really well done around mid lane. I think, even though I mentioned SOFM had a star performance, I wouldn't be mad if Flandre gets it too. I think Flandre came up and performed in team fights, and this is what we want to see. If he doesn't get his hands on the Camille, he's still able to have great team fight impact on the Jarvan. It's one or the other, and I wonder what EDG are going to be able to do in game 2 to really combat that.
I mean, yesterday when we saw them get pushed all the way to match 3, we saw them get angry, break out the Urgot pick top, bring in Clearlove to reset the jungle, and tear apart FPX. Will we see them repeat that once again, playing against former neighborhood allies in Snake on stage? Because that was a complete shellacking. Team EDG, they were systematically outplayed with the exception of that one fight at the Baron.
So there are 2 points in growth in which they can go into game 2 if you're EDG. One of them is maybe you can ship out Haro and say, we'll try and match you in the jungle at the really early on. Haro is a Lee Sin player himself. Maybe that's something you go towards. Or you can try and say, we'll pick up a stronger top lane pick. Urgot was something that they did yesterday, but ordinarily it's the Kled, something that you can try and fight toe-to-toe with Flandre in the top side.
Yeah.
That's an option EDG can go towards.
We'll see what that's going to be. We've got a quick replay for you to show how that game ended up going. Again, Snake were just non-stop action all across the map, constantly pushing in time after time. This was an opportunity for EDG to try to pick up some kills.
But remember, iBoy doesn't have any HP. I was surprised he was able to survive the hail of arrows. And then look towards Lee Sin. SOFM came in hot, came in quickly, and that was the deciding factor. Already had a lot of kills to his name at that point, and was able to just snowball it even further. Of course, scumbag Varus denying him from the triple kill.
5-0-2, though, is still pretty respectable when you're playing Lee Sin in the professional scene against Clearlove, one of the most, if not the most experienced jungler in the entire LPL right now.
And one of the greatest attributes of SOFM is how creative he is in this game, because he understood one of the major barriers was going up against Clearlove, and knowing that Clearlove was going to be able to try and track him And he did, honestly, got the Scuttle Crabs early on, and just try and find him and nullify the 2v2 anytime Lee Sin found his face towards mid lane. But the one time he couldn't was when he ward hopped in towards the lane to close the distance by evading the wards that Scout had really laid out for him. So good job to SOFM being able to evade the wards that he had an idea that were there.
Yeah, and we've got another replay for you of a team fight in that mid lane to show how that snowball continued to roll out. This was the big pop over the wall. Flandre, how does he find iBoy?
You're right about this when the call came through. Not only was Flandre's knock-up valuable, but Rise setting up great splash damage, 100-0 the AD carrier right from the get-go. So EDG were in a really bad position, not only because their major carry was gone, but you had the flank of Lee Sin coming in the back.
Yeah, with the Orianna and the Braum forced to pull back and disengage. They were forced out of position. SOFM, surprise, surprise, will take our MVP for that victory on his signature Lee Sin. 7-0-5. There wasn't a kill in the game that he wasn't a part of.
Yeah, he was a part of it. All of it. 20% damage taken because he was just in the thick of things. You don't get to see a lot of the 19% damage percentage. I know his damage percentage throughout the split is a little bit bonkers because they've gone through a lot of gold funneling, but you get to see and really respect his style when he's on the field, and he can be able to get acts like these on the Lee Sin.
Style of me gets the chance to bring it out against Edward Gaming. But has he angered the bear? Has he woken the dragon? Will we see the fury of the winningest team in the LPL? Or will EDG once again fall prey to Snake? Because they are fighting for their season lives right here. If they lose their next 2 games, they are out until 2019.
And so for Snake, they're definitely going to keep that fire alive.
Oh, yeah.
That drive is going to be there. It's going to be on EDG to match them. And it should be able to be matched. I know a lot of the times you get to the final day, and teams that have locked themselves in this case it's going to be EDG locking themselves into second place, they try and take a bit of a relaxation period knowing that playoffs is on the horizon, but it doesn't happen for EDG. EDG is a team that continues to keep driving because they know, at the very least when they're in Chongqing, that their fans are still there cheering for them. And the organization are watching their recent games, and they ain't pleased.
Yeah.
So EDG needs to be able to come in strong regardless of the impact that it has on the standings.
Well, we'll have to see if they can recover. They've got only a few more chances left to do that. We're going to go and take a quick break while we get ready for Game 2. Don't go anywhere. The LPL will be right back.
请重庆的召唤师们继续带给 Snake 力量，雄起！